Welcome to Queen City Cyber Consulting's channel.
Welcome back to Queen City Cyber Consulting. If you do not have a threat intelligence analyst on your team or someone who is routinely, if not daily, reviewing the output of other security organizations, then you are missing out on a lot of actionable intelligence. And that is sad in our modern day and age, especially when we have artificial intelligence that can help and assist in seeking and searching out applicable threat intelligence articles, indicators of compromise, etc. One such article came out not too long ago from CISA. And what they had done is they conducted 2 penetration tests. Now, CISA is a U.S. cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency, and they do a lot of work, both from the blue team side and the red team side. They put out a ton of bulletins and updates to ongoing attack vectors and threat intelligence. So really, if you're not following them, you're missing out on a lot of actions that you could do to better protect your network. So, in this report that they just recently released, it's called A Tale of Two Socks. And this is an evaluation of 2 ongoing simultaneous red team engagements or penetration tests, depending upon which terminology you'd like to use there. And what they did was they targeted some critical infrastructure organizations using identical attack tradecraft. That's important because it gives you a good reference for what was seen, what was missed, how the defenses worked, and then allows you during your lessons learned exercise to go back and update your protections. That's vitally important. Even without having had CISA come in and do this penetration test on your own networks, if you have similar networks within your environment, similar tools, as is identified in their report, you can still take action. You don't even have to pay to have a pen test done. You can learn from this report yourself. Do your own lessons learned. Go back and examine your own defensive posture, your own defensive techniques, your tactics, and then update them to better protect your network. So what did CISA find out during this penetration test? Well, here are some highlights. They used the same tradecraft on both pen tests. One was Organization A, which was government facilities. And the second one, Organization B, was a water system vector. Both organizations ultimately had full domain level compromise, but there's a caveat in there, which you'll get to hear about. They ended up having their cloud assets exposed and eventually compromised. Cloud is oftentimes forgotten about when it comes to cybersecurity. And that's the fault of executives and IT who think the cloud exists on some esoteric level where it's not going to be targeted. Not true, as we see in this report. There is a vast response divide observed. Organization B actually stopped the attack within 2 to 20 minutes. And Organization A just failed to see the attack happening at all. Vast difference there. And that's where the caveat comes into play, and you'll see why here momentarily. So what's the core takeaway? Well, your security tools are only as effective as the human processes, the operational playbooks, and your identity hygiene that supports them. That's what it all comes down to. And these kind of attacks are real world. The simulations are actually based on real world attacks that have happened. So they're very revealing in the end. So organization A is here in this chart right here. The initial entry vector, they found a web facing and internet facing interface with default credentials activated. And once they got that access, they were able to send out phishing emails internally, and that gave them access to a broad range of targets within the network. In Organization A, it was completely undetected. Nobody knew what was happening. Even when the phishing emails went out, there were no alerts, there was no response, 0% action. Once they got in, they got to the Active Directory and immediately took it over using a variety of techniques, machine quota, AD, certificate services, and of course, moved on to the cloud, stole the PRT, and abused over permissioned app keys, and ended up compromising sensitive business systems. Now, Organization B, the water system organization. When the phishing emails first started, they caught them. They quarantined them, and they immediately moved to quarantine the machines that had received these phishing emails. Excellent, excellent response. They isolated the host involved within that 2 to 20-minute time frame. Unfortunately, to continue the exercise, they moved internal and conducted the same kind of attack. And guess what they found? Clear text service credentials in the config files. And that gave them domain access. They could extract the KRBG secret and abuse it. And thankfully, though, the OT DMZ blocked the C2 channel that they were attempting to communicate with, which would have prevented any data exfil and possible future attack vectors. So, Organization B actually did really well until they got inside the network and started looking around. Then they found many of the same problems that Organization A had. However, Organization A failed from the get-go because they didn't even spot the phishing emails, which in this day and age is truly amazing. So, looking at the Active Directory vulnerabilities, they had the default machine account quota set. It allowed any unprivileged domain user to create rogue computer accounts, which allowed Kerberos exploitation. They had Active Directory certificate template abuse set up. These misconfigured certificate templates allowed arbitrary SAN requests, allowing the attackers to request certificates as domain admins and then abuse them. And they also had unsecured credential storage. And that is just really inexcusable in the world today. There are some cloud and credential hygiene gaps that were spotted during these two pen tests. Again, they had permanent AWS access keys set never to expire. And of course, once the attackers saw those and took them, they had full access to the cloud and were able to move laterally within that. They had unprotected primary refresh tokens that they stole from memory, which allowed long-term session hijacking without any multi-factor prompts. And they had over-permissioned apps. The intra-ID service principals possess tenant-wide mail read roles, enabling the red team to read the SOC incident emails silently. In other words, the intruders knew what the SOC was talking about. So they would have been warned if they were spotted. Probably they didn't see anything alarming to them, so they could just carry on with their attack. Frightening, and that's happened in many other cases where the internal email system was actually taken over by the attackers without the defenders knowing. I've seen cases where chats were taken over, where the attackers inserted themselves into the chats and were watching live as the defenders were scrambling to try to figure out what was going on. Embarrassing, to say the least. in the end, and probably career ending. What was bad at Organization A was there was 0% detection of that initial intrusion. What they did find in going back and reviewing, they were generating thousands of high severity false positives during just normal, routine operational traffic on the network, which gave the penetration testing team a cover because that alert fatigue is real. If there are so many alerts coming in on a network that have not been properly vetted and weeded out, then it's going to happen. Your SOC analysts are going to miss things. It's routine. They found disconnected telemetry tools across multiple independent SOCs, which left blind spots, of course, and legitimate alerts on the critical management server were just discarded because the playbooks that the SOC analysts were following didn't have any documented system ownership in them. They probably never even been updated. They may even have just been templates downloaded from the internet to check a box on a checklist. Those are all fatal errors alone, let alone combining them. Talk about the perfect storm there. So let's go over a quick roadmap, give you some actionable frameworks to eliminate these attack vectors and hopefully empower your SOC. So let's break it out, give it 90 days roughly. Immediately, go and set this command right here, MSDS machine account quota to 0, revoke any ESC1 SAN templates, and purge any static cloud keys that are out there. That's an immediate step. Moving on, out 30 days to 90 days. Scan configs for any hard-coded secrets. Restrict the intra-ID app permissions, and enforce strict egress rules on your firewall and similar appliances. Moving out to 90 plus days, you definitely have to reduce SIM noise, reduce that. You need to have host isolation, SLA, service level agreements, to enable your SOC analyst, if they see something suspicious, to immediately isolate that host. And also map out who owns what assets within your environment. Who's responsible for Active Directory? How do you get hold of them at, say, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, whenever the attacks? Believe you me, these don't typically happen 9 to 5. They don't happen during a workday. They happen Friday evening, Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday. Holidays are really good for this. If you're going to go into the security field, be prepared to work holidays because that's how it happens. Definitely harden your Active Directory. There are some examples here that you can do. And examine your cloud environment. Check your identity and egress controls. Look for these weaknesses that CISA's red team identified in these two clients, and make sure that you don't have the same weaknesses in your own environment. If you do, get them fixed. It's just as simple as that. That's why these kinds of reports are so important to review and then implement the changes. For your service level agreements, your incident response, host isolation time should be less than 15 minutes. The organization B SLA was 2 to 20 minutes observed, so they were really close to that time frame. Phishing payload containment should be less than 30 minutes to target. And again, organization A, they didn't even see the phishing emails. You need to have these approved isolation playbooks to give your level 1, level 2 SOC analysts the ability to move quickly if they see these suspicious things. They should not have to pick up a phone and start trying to play phone tag with people in order to prevent and stop an attack. And your SLAs, your playbooks, give them the opportunity to do that. You need help figuring this out? Give us a call. Contact us. Be happy to sit down with you and start working on your security development, your security program, get it stronger, build it up, and hopefully share some of this threat intelligence with you. This is Queen City Cyber Consulting signing off. Thank you for watching. Go forth and conquer.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.